If you've ever looked at a chart and thought why price moves and bounce, reacts from specific zones, in this video I'm going to explain exactly why. Today I want to explain support and resistance in the simplest way possible. I want to make this as simple as I possibly can so you can understand it and won't have to worry about it. First things first, what even is support and resistance? Support and resistance is just a zone. When price gets to that zone, it has a reaction. We'll go over a few examples so you can understand it in simple terms. The way I always like to think about it is support is a floor and resistance is a ceiling. Let's look at support and resistance on the chart and make it a little bit easier to understand. So I always like to look at it again, support as a floor, resistance is a ceiling. Super simple concept. You don't even have to think about the charts at this point. So let's say this is your house, okay? Imagine this is the downstairs, this is the upstairs. I know the drawing is super good, so don't get too jealous, I am an artist. Anyway, so let's say you're downstairs over here. If you look down, or even now, below you is the floor, right? You're walking on the floor, there is something that is supporting you and allowing you to continue to walk, right? But then you're like, okay, I'm a little bit tired, let me go ahead and go and lie down. And in this instance, your bedroom is upstairs. However, just before you go upstairs, remember, you're walking on the floor, and if you just look up, you have a ceiling, right? Even right now, there's a ceiling above me. And that is literally what price does, okay? If price is, here, we're using this zone as our support zone because we're bouncing. We're not breaking through it yet. We haven't got to that just yet. And again, if you look above, the ceiling is there. Same exact thing. Support is a floor and resistance is a ceiling. However, there are times where support turns into resistance and resistance turns into support. So let's quickly look at resistance turning into support. Same exact concept with the house, okay? We're downstairs here. We decide that we want to go upstairs, right? So remember, when we look up, this is our ceiling, also known as a resistance, but we're going up the stairs, going up, and as we start walking towards our bedroom, we are now walking on this floor, which previously was our ceiling, okay? So literally, you were downstairs, looked up, ceiling, went upstairs, and the ceiling that is used for downstairs is your floor upstairs. So that is literally the same exact way that resistance turns into support, because you've used the stairs to break through it, kind of bounced, and continued to walk on it. That's the same thing that price does when we'll look at it in a second, where I personally like to trade break and retest. So price has a break, retest, and then continue. So we're downstairs, use the stairs, walk on the new floor, and continue to go up. And then same exact concept, support turning into resistance is literally the opposite, because we're already upstairs, we're walking, we're walking on our support, very nice. Decide to take the stairs down, we're getting a little bit hungry, want to go to the kitchen, and then we look up. Oh look, that's the ceiling again. But that ceiling 2 seconds ago was our floor. So same exact concept. Support, you're walking, bouncing. Price decides to break, have a retest, uses that support as a resistance. In this instance, you're walking on your floor, you use the stairs, look up. Yep, the ceiling's right there. That is it. Literally simple as that. You don't need to overcomplicate this anymore. Now, what is a valid area of support and resistance? And how do you find an area of support and resistance? Can be found right here. For me personally, I like to have a valid zone classified as 2 to 3 touches, which I'll show you on the live chart in a second. I just want to go through this like this so you understand. This area is classified as a support. It's not a resistance yet because, there is no ceiling. We haven't turned support into resistance, none of that stuff. It's simply support. It's a floor supporting price, okay? If price decides to, come to this zone and break, and kind of pull back to this area, then at that point, we have just basically gone from being upstairs, used the stairs, looked up, yep, the ceiling's right there. So we've just turned support because we are bouncing on top, turned it into resistance because we've now pulled back to the zone and continued to use it to then continue to go lower. Again, the opposite is true with resistance. This is a valid resistance zone because it has multiple touches, 1, 2, 3, 4, and it isn't a support yet because we haven't broken above it or anything like that. Price is still bouncing to it. And remember, every time price gets to that zone, it has some sort of reaction. So we've managed to reach the zone. Okay, price is ready to go up. So this is what it's going to do. Use the stairs, go up and start walking on the floor, which was previously your ceiling. And again, we were resistance. We broke, turned it into support, and continued up higher. That is literally it. Like, if you get confused, just think about the house concept. You going from downstairs to upstairs or upstairs to downstairs. It's the same exact thing. Just replace support and resistance as floor and ceiling, and that's it. Before we continue with the rest of the video, if you do want to learn my exact trading strategy and be a part of my community, it's not a signal group. I do not provide signals. I'm actually trying to teach you how to become independent traders. Then be sure to click the first link in the description to book a call with my team. But with that being said, let's get right back into the video. Let's have a look at some chart examples. Remember, there are literally so many different areas of support and resistance, but not all of them are valid. So again, a valid zone has multiple touches, so 2 to 3 zones. And with regards to how thick and how big the zone has to be, there isn't a limit. This is just a random zone, right? But it can be this big, it can be this big. As long as it's not this big, there isn't like a specific number of pips it has to be. It's just what looks normal. So let's try and find an area of support. I can see one right here. This is a lovely area of support because every time price gets to this zone, not only does it have a reaction, but it is using it to bounce up higher, which means that we're using it as a floor, also known as support. In this example, we don't see price, coming back to this area and breaking, retesting and going like this and turning it into a resistance. It just continues to use it as a support. Now, let's try and find a resistance zone. I can see one right here. Once again, every time price reaches this area, it has some sort of reaction. This one can actually be both, right? Support and resistance. Because again, anytime we're below, we're bouncing, break, reaction, reaction, reaction. However, we have turned support into resistance because as you can see here, we had support, support, price decided to break, use the stairs, look up, yep, the ceiling's there, continue lower. So support, support, break, retest, turned it into resistance. So again, super valid zone, simple as that. Let's have a look at a resistance zone really fast. Again, remember, resistance is literally a ceiling, so every time price gets to this area, it has a reaction more than 2 to 3 touches in and around, and it gets to this area, okay, we can't break through, we're looking up, there's no stairs for us to use until this moment comes and price is like, yep, I want to go to sleep, I'm tired, right? So it goes up, retests, bounces off and continues to go higher, meaning this resistance zone has now turned into a support because the ceiling has turned into a floor. It's literally all that you need. And the way I trade is simply wait for price to have a break, retest, to then buy. But that's a whole nother video in itself. I just wanted to show you guys how simple support and resistance can actually be. You don't need to overcomplicate it and be like, oh my gosh, it needs to do this, it needs to do that. No, it doesn't. It's absolutely fine. One important thing to consider though, is I do like it to be the bodies that touch. So this right here is a body. These wicks do also count, but I like to draw it in and around the body rather than be like, okay, this is how I like my support. I want it to be closer to the body like this rather than the wicks, just because it's more valid for me personally. But has to have a minimum of 2 to 3 touches, and support turn into resistance and resistance can turn into support. And again, the way you take these trades is simply waiting for price to have a break, retest to then buy, and that is simply it. Break, retest, look for those buys, stop loss below here, take profit there. But again, that is for another video. But keep it simple. You don't need to overcomplicate this at all. With all that being said, that will conclude the video. I hope you guys enjoyed. If you want me to go into more detail and have any other sort of topics you want me to make videos about, make sure to comment down below and I will do just that. Of course, if you do want to be a part of my community, make sure to click the first link in the description and book a call with my team. If it's available, you want to grab it before it closes. I don't allow every single person in. It is very selective because I am the one teaching you. I don't have anyone else coming in and be like, oh, do this, do that. It is me. So I want to be involved with everyone. So make sure to book a call. And of course, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And I'll catch you guys in the next one.